Hello everybody, welcome to some in-depth deck building here at Playing Board Games. I'm Justin, and today we are going to be focusing on archetypes in this series. So in this series, I build a deck, I try to be as in-depth as possible, where I talk through all my decisions, why we're including them, and the thought process that goes into why I may consider one card over another as we build these decks. I've done this previously with three generic decks, and then I also did it with Daniel from Quick Learner, where we built 2 decks for a campaign together. I've decided to pivot this to archetypes. I've had some people recently asking for more videos about archetypes or to upgrade our archetype guides, so I thought this would be a good way to dip our toes back into archetype content. If you don't know what an archetype is, it's just like a way to build a deck that is the cards synergize with one another, simple stuff like that. So, we are going to be starting with Guardian class and firearms. That is going to be our first archetype. Firearms matter, upgrading your firearms, that kind of stuff that is going to be existing in here. These in-depth deck building guides, they always focus on level 0, but we are going to put in some upgrade plans because in the firearms deck, we are going to be upgrading out of those as well, right? So it's like we're not going to be doing the upgraded cards here, but I'm going to include some information on our upgrades once the time comes to it. Firearms in the Guardian class. I have all the cards here. I'm using ARKHAM build, by the way. If you have not used this website, you really should. It's very, very good. Firearms. The first thing we need to decide is what are the firearms that we're going to be building around. So I am doing Guardian, but we also can look, we're probably not going to look at Rogue. When I'm looking at firearms, let me just get rid of this for a second. When I'm looking at firearms, I am looking at 2 investigators to play firearms with. We have Mark Harrigan, mostly because he has some really nice built-in draw to his ability, right? After damage is placed on a card you control, you get to draw 1 card limit once per phase. This is going to come along with Sophie, who I can, as a lightning bolt, take 1 direct damage to get +2 skill value for this test. Mark Harrigan is often the person I go to for my Guardian gun archetype because of this ability in card draw, and also because natively he just has 5 fist. The other person I look to for guns is Leo Anderson. The reason for this is because he exists in Rogue 02. His deck building is Guardian 05, Rogue 02, which works really well for his ability. Not for his ability. For his ability to be able to use those rogue weapons or rogue ammo refilling weapons to be able to take advantage of this. There's kind of been a weird struggle for the Guardian class, where rogues have started to eat more into the firearm pie, to the point where now rogues are the firearm class. They kind of just are. So, that's something to consider. The only problem with Leo Anderson is that his ability doesn't really pay off the archetype that well. So I'm leaning towards our good friend, Mr. Mark Harrigan. So let's get these back onto the table. And let's kind of talk about all the guns we have here. There's the 32 Colt, which doesn't give us a fist boost, but it does still deal +1 damage. It also has 6 ammo, and it only costs 3. This is really nice in Mark Harrigan, because Mark Harrigan has 5 fists, so he'll be able to actually take advantage of this card better than other Guardians are able to. The Winchester, we're not even looking at this one, to be honest. The Winchester is its own archetype. So it's spend +2. It has also been tabooed, which I don't know where you can see the taboos on this. Maybe when I get into the deck, they'll showcase this. But it's been to a not negative number. Like, not negative. But that's its own archetype. 45 automatic, that's a fine gun. It'll get the job done. It's not flashy, it's not great, but it'll get the job done. This 45 Thompson is usually the card I use in these decks, and I don't think this is going to be an exception. Its ability is just very good. Ammo spent from it is placed in your resource pool as resources. That's very hard for me to say no to. It also has a very playable level 0 weapon as well. 6 cost, 2 hands, spend 1 ammo, +2, +1 damage. That's very nice. It's basically like not the same as this, but like we're gonna probably be playing the 45. I mean, like this only gives you +1, but it's kind of like 2 45s stapled together. On to the other guns. These are the big guns that we could potentially be building into. We have the flamethrower, which is nice and flashy. The lightning gun, which is nice and zappy. The bar, which we're not building with, it's a deck that you kind of also have to build around. Leo notably plays the bar better than Mark Harrigan does, mostly because he can access a card called Contraband. Old Shotgun is also a deck that you build yourself. It's not part of the Firearms package, even though it does say Firearm. It's a deck that is a combo deck, so we're not going to be looking at that here. And then the Shotgun is a good payoff for the big gun archetype as well. So, with all of that behind us, let's put this deck in here and we can start getting this going. So, we would like Mark Harrigan. Yes, I would love to create a deck with our good friend Mark Harrigan. This deck is going to be private, I guess, and we're going to call this, I got to do all, you got to see all this right here. Springfield not even addressed? Yeah, unfortunately, bad news for the Springfield. All right. All right, we're going to put this into scans mode just because it's easier for you to see. I just need to hear 1 second. All right. So, here's our starting deck. Here are our first things. We're going to be looking at our level 0 cards. We're a gun deck, so we're going to want ways to have guns. So, we're going to still start with the firearms. We're going to just get that stuff done here. Generally, when I'm building a deck, I am a bit riskier than we teach, you know? Like, what's the saying? Do as I say, not as I do. That's a big part of, when I build decks on the channel sometimes, I have a little bit more reckless confidence to be able to play decks with a few less cards than I would otherwise. So it's one of those things that I'm gonna be a little bit more on it for this video. Just kind of like a general better recommendation for this kind of stuff here. So our guns, we are gonna play 2 of the 45 Thompson. Again, what I really like about the 45 Thompson is it's just a very good gun. We're very likely to be going into the upgraded version here. So we're going to be, that's probably going to be happening for sure, So much so I'm actually even going to just put it in our side deck, because I do think that this is going to be worth it once the time comes. For the 45 automatic, we're also going to put in 2 copies of this. Again, this gun is not particularly flashy, but it does like get the job done, right? It's still a very playable card, and you're gonna not regret having it out. You're playing 4 resources for 4 shots of the gun with market 6, 8 if you need to with Sophie. Like, these are all very achievable numbers to get things done. The upgraded version might make it into our deck. Honestly, I can actually definitely see it going there as well, but we're not going to put it into the side deck yet, because I do think the upgraded 45 Thompson is just going to be better for it. But I just hope if this is your first time seeing Arkham build, do you see how great this, I was going to say better, and they're trying not to start a war, because this is supposed to be like an addition to Arkham DB, but man, I love this freaking website. It's so good. It's so good. All right. The 32 Colt, is it going to be worth in this deck? This is what I need to decide. Because right now we have 4 guns, and we're not really going to be, like, we're not trying to look at to, like, swap through our guns a lot in the long term with this deck. But at level 0, we might have to. So because of that, I am going to start with 2 of the 32 Colts. Because, as I mentioned earlier, Mark Harrigan does have 5 Fist, which works really well to, you know, punch with, right? Like this is essentially you're taking a punch action, but you deal +1 damage. So you're able to use that to take advantage of those kind of things. Like, you can use this and you can use other skills, and it's just like, it's a punch that is going to deal +1 damage. This is basically just a basic fight action that you're using a gun for. And Mark Harrigan, with his 5 Fist, is going to be able to take advantage of that. So, I am going to run 2 copies of Prepared for the Worst here. Mostly because once our cards get upgraded, this is going to be really nice for doing that. Just in finding the guns that we want is relevant. If we do not get it, it has 2 icons that are worth committing. So like no matter what, this card is going to do something, even if we don't need it for the weapon. The book, we can investigate using Sophie. So we can use Sophie, so we're at 2. We use Sophie to get +2, going to 4. We use the book on Prepared for the Worst to go to 5, right? So these are all like relevant, that's a relevant number. Additionally, let's say we're using the 32 Colt. We're attacking at 5. We can use Prepared for the Worst to attack at 6, which is a pretty good number to be fighting with. We can also use Sophie to go even higher if need be. We're going to be talking about Mark Harrigan's damage in a little bit. We're not going to be worrying about that right now. We're going to be getting to that later in the deck. Right now, we're just building in the firearm package to make sure this thing works. So, a few things to consider as well. 32 Colt does have an upgrade. You can return it to your hand to reload it. This is something we might consider doing. This is another thing that I actually, in my first playthrough with Eric, I did this in a Mark Harrigan deck, and it worked out very well. Additionally, we might upgrade Prepared for the Worst, but not for Prepared for the Worst. We might upgrade it for, I said Backpack for the Worst, for Backpack. So Backpack here, the upgraded version, the level 2, allows us to, because we have, sorry, let me just go like this. This version of the card, which is very good. So I'm going to be putting this in the side deck, potentially. I'm not going to put it in the side deck yet, but we might be doing this depending on how other cards go as we get through this. Because in Guardian, we need to make a choice. And that choice is, how are we taking advantage of our weapons? Are we looking to just play it in a rogue style where we are swapping through our firearms? We don't care. We're just like, whatever best weapon we have at the moment, we're shooting that weapon. When that weapon is done, we're going to replace it with the next best weapon that we have. Or are we building up a weapon and making it better? The Guardian way generally cares about building it up better, in which case Backpack 2, as we mentioned previously, might not actually be the way, even though this card is really good. Because if we're going to be building up a weapon, we're going to want to be playing Bandolier instead. And I know what you might be thinking, but Justin, you can just play the Bandolier last from the backpack. Trust me, that works a lot less efficiently than it sounds. There's going to be times where you're just going to like have to drop something. So just like, if you want to play Bandolier, don't play Backpack. That's just my advice for you. Just play Prepared for the Worst. You have alternate methods to do this, or alternatively, just find good card draw. Speaking of good card draw, Mark Harrigan has good card draw, but he also has tactic cards level 0. So why don't we just take a quick little peek at those cards here. Wow, aren't they great? There's so many of them, and they're all so exciting. There's so many cool things we can do with them. You know what, honestly, let's just not even look at the Guardian cards right now. Let's just look at all the ones that are not in his class. Wow, he can play Bums Rush? Are you kidding me? That's actually kind of sick. Holy hell. As a side note, Bums Rush, I think, is the card that I think is probably one of the most valuable cards we've seen spoiled so far. And the fact that Mark Harrigan can play it, I forgot it was a tactic. It's very good. Reedy cannot, man, yeah, all right, but that's not this video. That's not this video. We got to stay focused. We got to stay focused. All right, so a few tactics that we can take advantage of here that I think are really good. Practice makes perfect, has value, but I don't know if we're going to be doing it here with Mr. Mark Harrigan, mostly because a lot of our deck is going to be eaten up by guns. If we have some room for it, we might consider Practice Makes Perfect. Kicking the Hornet's Nest is good economy. Also can help us find a weapon. Kicking the Hornet's Nest is probably one of the two investigators that I like this. Mark Harrigan is probably one of the two investigators I like Kicking the Hornet's Nest in. So we are going to also consider this one. And then, I mean, also Bums Rush card is actually like really good. But we're going to actually grab 2 copies of Act of Desperation. Probably one of the most fricked up level 0 cards in the game in terms of the value you can get out of it. It's kind of crazy. Like, this card is very powerful. So, as this costs play Act of Desperation, choose and discard an item asset that takes up at least 1 hand slot from your hand or play area. Fight. You get +X fist and deal +1 damage with this attack. where X is the chosen asset's predicted resource cost. If you succeed in that asset was in your play area, gain X resources. So, the gameplay loop for this actually should be pretty obvious, right? We're going to use our 45 Thompson or our 45 automatic. When it is empty, we're going to use Active Desperation to get +4 or +6, deal +1 damage, and then also gain 6 or 4 resources, right? That is an insane swing for a level 0 card. Yes, it requires another card to work, so maybe it's balanced, but maybe also Circle Undone is actually just like, sorry, this Active Desperation from Circle Undone is just a very, very powerful card. All right. Well, now you got to push to the limit. That's interesting, Astute. I'll frick with that. I think that's worth it. Yep, I'll do that. Yeah. No. All right, so this is Astute dropping a push to the limit. This, choose a weapon or tool as in your discard pile, resolve an action ability on the asset, ignoring all costs, including its action cost. After this effect resolves, shuffle the chosen asset into your deck. Playing this card does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So the reason why I like this is its recursion, right? So you empty your 45 Thompson, you throw your 45 Thompson at the enemy, you use push to the limit to shoot the 45 Thompson, killing that enemy, and then you get your 45 Thompson back into your deck, but you also get the money from Active Desperation to make sure that you have enough to play that next 45 Thompson. Notably, I'm pretty sure you don't get the money from this because you do not spend the ammo. So just something to keep in mind for the upgraded version. Whew. That's pretty hype. Chat, ban Azur. We're not talking to Azur today. All right. Let's look at some Guardian tactics, just so we can get like our foot under us here while we're still looking at this. Okay, so there's going to be one card we're going to be throwing in here that I always put into my Guardian decks, and that's Toe-to-Toe. Toe-to-Toe is a very, very, very strong level 0 card. It's Fight. This attack deals +1 damage, is automatically successful. As additional cost to perform this attack, the chosen enemy makes an attack against you. This is really good for Mark, because he gets to draw a card off this thing, assuming the enemy deals damage. However, one thing I really like about Toe-to-Toe in firearm decks in general is you do not need to spend an ammo. So anytime you're looking, like, let's take a look at just a little guy here. Let's just take a little stop in this area, and let's just look at, where is he? Oh, I see, I know. He should be here somewhere. I just want to get him on the screen. Hello? Oh, well, he's not here. I was going to just get Ravenous Ghoul on the screen. So the thing about Ravenous Ghoul is he has 3 health, right? So let's just say, for example, you use your 45 Thompson and you hit the guy and you're like, I frickin' did it, right? And then you kind of look at it like, where do I get that extra health from, right? Alternatively, I could just like shoot my gun again, but then I'm kind of wasting half of the damage on my bullet. So the idea then becomes, I guess I'll just punch the guy. Luckily, Mark Harrigan's really good for that, but having like more tools to facilitate combat that isn't ammos, like that isn't spending ammo, is a very good way to circumvent the weaknesses of firearm decks. This also carries over to Mystics to circumvent the weaknesses of spell-based, like charge-based damage. So these are all things that are really good for kind of just making that generally more consistent. So we already have 14 cards in our deck. We're almost there. We're almost halfway there. But we do want to have some tools to make our firearms more consistent. So what we're going to do, instead of searching by name, we're going to search firearm by text, and we're also going to get rid of tactics, and we're just going to look at like this. So we talked about the assets already, but we have a few level 0 cards that we're going to be talking about here. Eat lead. No, bad. Stop. Well, no, we're not going to talk about eat lead. So when you activate a firearm ability on a firearm asset, spend 1 additional ammo. When you reveal chaos token's attack, reveal 1 chaos token, choose one and resolve, ignore the other. We don't need to worry about this. It is a fine card, but it's not this deck. It's not the deck that we're doing here. There will be, like, I think that, like, there's going to be some stuff for this. It's also the same with Warning Shot. It's just cost to play Warning Shot, spend 1 ammo from a firearm asset, and move all non-enemy enemies to your location to a connecting location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. This card is gonna, not for this deck either, but this card is gonna get a little bit of a glow up after Drowned City comes back. Believe you me, I think this card's actually gonna start being kind of sick coming up here, but not right now, not right now. Our next two are Custom Modifications, which is a customizable card with a lot of option when it comes to making our guns better. We're definitely gonna be looking at this one. And then we got this one. 1 in the chamber, fast. Play at the end of an attack or an effect that spends the last ammo from a firearm asset you control. Add 1 ammo to that asset. You get +3 skill value for the next attack with that asset this round. This card is pretty playable. We're going to be putting it into our deck here, 1 in the chamber. Basically, you're just replacing an event for like 1 extra shot. So like this card is just adding like 1 extra shot to a weapon. This is going to cascade really well with our upgraded 45 Thompson once we get there, but it's also going to work really well with Custom Modifications. So Custom Modifications is probably one of the bigger payoff cards here that Guardians got for their firearm thing. So attached to a firearm asset you control, limit 1 per asset. When you reveal a non-auto-fail chaos token attacking with attached asset, exhaust Custom Modifications, cancel that chaos token, and return to the bag and reveal a new one. So this is why Eat Lead is bad for me, because you have that with Custom Modifications printed on it, right? Yes, you can cancel the auto-fail with this one because you get a reveal 2, but you do need to spend an additional ammo. Why not just do it with this, right? Like, that's kind of the thought process for this one. So the level 0 version of this always exists, and you do not need to spend an extra ammo for it. Yes, the power is slightly weaker, but it's not weaker enough for you to really, like, notice or miss it that much, if that makes sense. But then we get a look at our... Get out of here, Grammarly. Get out of here, Grammarly. We have our customizations here. I'm gonna skip past some of them, and actually, you know what? They're all actually very relevant, so we're gonna read most of them. So, Notch Sight. If you perform an attack with an attached asset against an enemy engaged with another investigator and you fail, you deal no damage. Very nice upgrade, only costs 1. Extended Stock. You get +2 fist while attacking with this asset. This might sound overkill for Mark Harrigan and the 45 Thompson, but it actually is really nice. It also is really nice for the 32 Colt if you want to put it on your 32 Colt. The only downside of 32 Colt is that if you're going to do the upgraded version and it returns to your hand, how do we solve this problem where we lose our custom modifications? Buckle up. There will be something in the future. Counterbalance. After you touch an upgrade card other than custom modifications to attached asset, you draw 1 card. So we're already seeing that here, right here, there's a little bit of an archetype signpost here, right? Where it's like you can build upgrades on this card to just make it better. So it's already saying like, hey, here is something that you can do to build around this card in a different way. So that's a cool thought card here. Custom modifications for the leather grip gets -1 cost and gains fast. Play only during your turn. You know, makes it cheaper. Not a terrible thing. Also makes it fast so you don't have to spend an action. Generally, I find this card to be worth an action, so the leather grip is like on the lower end for me, but it's certainly not bad. Extended Magazine. After ammo is spent from or placed on attached asset by another event, place 1 ammo on the attached asset. Works really well for the Warning Shot and the Eat Lead that we just saw, but works even better for 1 in the chamber, right? So this is something, again, kind of giving you a signpost of how do I take advantage of this. Quicksilver Bullets. If you succeed by 3 or more while attacking with this attached asset, it deals +1 damage. Also fine. Like, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good, but I actually think some of the other ones, funnily enough, are actually just, like, more efficient in getting more out of your gun. Which sounds crazy, I know. But let's just talk about that Ravenous Ghoul again, right? So that Ravenous Ghoul has 3 health. So this solves that Ravenous Ghoul problem, which is great. But now we're looking at a little bit of an issue where we have a 4 health enemy, right? And yeah, I could just use my fist or another gun, right? But then I also have to, like, where am I going to be holding that gun? And that solves those other problems. Same kind of thing where it's one of those things where it reads really well, but just making the gun generally more efficient, I think, is better. So we have 10 XP that we're planning to put in this card. This card is going in the deck, by the way, so we're just going to put 2 of them in the deck. So 10 XP, things I always look at. I always look at extended stock. I usually always look at extended magazine, especially depending on how our deck is going to go from things as we upgrade. So we'll talk about that when we get to the upgrade portion of this deck as well. I usually will also, like, because then that's what, 3, that's 5. I'll probably do Notch Sight and then maybe Quicksilver Bullets. Those are like the easy ones that I usually always do. Maybe Counterbalance depending on what avenue we take. Okay, so this is 16 cards, not counting toe-to-toe, that I think are part of our firearms packaged. Do I really need to put in more for this is the thing that I'm talking about right now, or are we happy with how this is looking in terms of taking advantage of our firearms? If we look at our upgraded version, we have a few new fun things to talk about. We have the new Locked and Loaded, which is fine. I think it's like probably one of those things that we could look at doing. Once we get the experience. And there's also extra ammunition, which we can use to place more ammo tokens on our firearm asset. This works really well if we're going to be doing the extended magazine portion. And then there's also custom ammunition, which also places ammo. So like these are the things I'm looking at. So I'm going to actually put the custom ammunition in here as well for the 2 ammo and +1 damage to monster enemies. I'm going to also put in the 2 extra ammunition. We can't really side deck this card. I mean, we might be able to, but I think looking at the extended magazine is the way we're going to be going with our upgrades. Additionally, there's also cards like Marksmanship, which are not bad. I think this card actually like is kind of slept on, like even on our channel, for this kind of stuff. That it's like a way that we can actually like take advantage of our gun to deal with enemies nearby. Snipe is unfortunately a little bit outclassed just because like you have to spend an action to do it. So it's like this is when you're designing more around the shotgun, which if you've not picked up yet is kind of not the direction that this deck is going. Telescopic Sight as well is not the direction we're going here. There was, however, a card that someone in chat said earlier, which we're also going to check out, which is called Well Maintained. So, after attached S is discarded, return it to its owner's hand along with each other upgrade attachment that was attached to it. This can be a very nice avenue for us to take. I also agree that this actually can be a really good change for the push to the limit when you're upgrading out of it. If you are going to be doing this, you're going to want to probably look at your custom modifications having a leather grip instead of Quicksilver Bullets. It's probably just like the reality that if you want to be playing this card multiple times, take advantage of it. And we also actually have a way built into our deck in order for us to take advantage of getting rid of cards that are in our play area. All right. So I do think we have the ground floor of our deck built here. So now we got to answer a few questions that are still existing. 1, what's our economy? How do we solve our economy? 2, how do we solve Mark Harrigan's issue with taking damage and dying? 3, we still have slots to fill. Are we going to fill those slots? So we have ally and we have accessory. We're probably not looking at spell slots for this deck, so we don't need to worry about that. But we do want to look at our ally and our accessory slot. So why don't do we have slots here? We got to have slots somewhere. Yes, we do! Wow, the future is now. All right, give me ally. Let's start here. We want to look at level 0. Okay. All right. So I have a slight issue in my life where When I see medical student, I think it's time to get prepared for the worst. Sorry, it's time to get in the thick of it. Sorry. It's time to get in the thick of it. Where I see medical student, and I think it's time for me to get some trauma. And I think that this is no exception. I'm going to take 2 copies of medical student. And then I'm just going to quickly just get rid of this. Get rid of this. Oh, no, sorry. I have to kill you. And I'm going to take in the thick of it. What do I have here? Guardian. All right, so in the thick of it, we're going to take two trauma. We're going to take 1 physical, 1 mental, and then we're going to earn 3 experience. And we're going to use medical student to heal that damage and horror. This is my issue, and this is the cross I bear, and I'm going to bear it. I always do this if I see medical student. I'm like, well, I might as well. It's practically free, right? So, with our 3 experience, I think I am going to... Would I put it into this? The extended stock to start is really nice. I actually think I'm just going to put it into this. I'm going to make this card just generally better. This might change, but what I like about this is it takes so much stress off of us for the start of the game, especially if we get this on a 32 Colt or not. Yes, okay. All right, we're going to go back to looking at our allies again. All right, so let's also look at level 1 to 5 as well. Let's see if we're going to upgrade into anything. So much of our experience is going to be going into our guns. I might actually just run 2 copies of Tetsuo. So we don't really have a consistent ally that we're going to be married to in this deck. So that's what I really like about Tetsuo here and Medical Student, is they're here to soak for us for Mark's ability. They are here to heal us, which is going to help Mark's ability. And additionally, Tetsuo Mori is also going to be here to help us find a weapon. Notably, he searches the top 9 cards of their deck or their discard pile, which is, if I do say so myself, pretty good also working with push to the limit. Recursion is a powerful thing, and this is kind of like Guardian's fair form of recursion. We're also going to look at our accessory slot. As I said, that is also something we're missing. So, Mark Harrigan has a bit of an issue. I mean, we just take Hallowed Mirror. Hallowed Mirror is really tough to say no to in Mark Harrigan, just because of that extra healing is really good. Cleaning Kit is super viable, right? Because it gives us, like, more uses of our weapons. But, like, let's talk about the best case scenario on Cleaning Kit, right? It's 45 Thompson, level 3, right? So then we're getting, like, an extra additional ammo, right? Like, additional ammo, additional money. Let's talk about the worst case scenario on Cleaning Kit. 32 Colt, that's pretty bad. So what we're going to do is, I think we still want the Hallowed Mirror. Hallowed Mirror is going to give us Soothing Melody, which is going to allow to heal Mark Harrigan and also heal our allies. You could also put in, like, Guard Dog with this sort of thing. Like we also could do with, like, Guard Dog to go with this. But I think even just, like, again, keeping Mark Harrigan's weakness under wrapped. Because Mark Harrigan, if you do not know, let's look at Sophie again for a second. If Mark Harrigan has 5 or more damage, Sophie gets pissed. And then just she has, like, imagine little angry eyebrows here, right? Then you get -1 to each of your skills. And then she flips back if you have 4 or less damage. So this is something we're going to want to be aware of when the time comes. We need to add 7 more cards. So yeah, Soothing Hallowed Mirror is going to get there because I think Soothing Melody is the way. Notably, there's also a level 3 version, which changes the 2 to a 3 or shuffled into your deck on the Soothing Melody, which means you can heal 3 damage or 2 and shuffle it back into your deck. Very nice card. All right, we are going to run Bandolier. Bandolier. So Bandolier here, we have additional hand slot, which is going to be used to hold a weapon asset. In a perfect world, we're going to be wanting to reload our good gun, and we're going to want a small gun, which is usually going to be our 32 Colt or 45 automatic, to live with our Thompson, right? So that's going to be one of those things where this is going to be the way we're going to want to do this. And the upgraded bandolier, if we're holding a weapon and 2 or more assets, we also get +1 brain, which is notably really nice for Mark Harrigan. Okay, we have to add 5 more cards, so we want to do some economy and some survival. We might need to cut some cards too. We might need to look at this as we get into this last portion as we come up over here. Okay. Just bear with me as I'm stewing in the tank of what we do here. We're going to cut one of these 2 guns. It's probably going to be the Colt. So we're going to go to a 1 of on the 32 Colt. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go, oh, resource. No, bad. Okay. All right, so let's talk about our economy here. Kicking the Hornet's Nest is a nice card, but it's not actually economy, right? Like it gives you money, but I mean it can be, but like if we don't have the money to play our gun, how, like, what are we doing with this, right? That's the great question of the day. I always like Stand Together. I always like Stand Together. Stand Together also upgrades really well into card draw in the form of Stand Together 3, right? So like that's a really nice version of the card. We could also look at doing, as we upgrade, Stick to the Plan. Like that's another thing that usually ends up happening to these decks once we talk about them. I mean, I would put 2 copies of Stand Together in here. Okay. I'm going to do 2 copies of Stand Together. I'm going to do 2 copies of Emergency Cash. I'm going to do... I'm going to talk about all these. I'm just putting getting all these decisions in here. 2 copies of Glory. So, Stand Together is just good economy for you and a teammate. I really like it in the Guardian class. Mark Harrigan generally wants to be with his buddies, so this is a good way of doing it. Emergency Cash is Emergency Cash. Just gives you 3 money. Glory just gives you cards for defeating enemies. We like it as well. I'm also going to cut down one of these Push to the Limits, and I'm going to play Second Wind. Second Wind is not like a flashy card, but it is very nice in Mark Harrigan for the downturns. So we're going to take that with him here and just have some sort of like additional damage healing, because you don't want to be in a place where you're not able to heal damage as Mark Harrigan. So a little bit of redundancy goes a long way for that kind of thing. Okay, let's just look at this deck over. Let's also look at the meta of the deck. That's not, sorry, that's the tools. There we go, there it is, the tools of the deck. Okay. So, we have 8 cards that cost 0, 7 cards that cost 1, so 15 cards. 6 cost 2, and then we have 7 that cost there, and then these 2 big guys. A lot of fist icons. I mean, I think this is looking pretty okay. Going to look at our side deck here. Cards we do want to consider as well. We probably want to upgrade these guys. I think we're going to keep all of our guns in here. So we're going to put this in our side deck too, the 32 Colt. I am going to want the Bandolier upgraded. We probably do want Stick to the Plan. Card's actually just kind of goated. So Stick to the Plan. Tactic resupply events. So we're going to be putting on emergency cache, and then like I'd probably do active desperation over push to the limit, because push to the limit probably will get taken out for the well-maintained, as I mentioned earlier. But what it also can do is we can play Ever Vigilant as well in our thing. That's just like a normal combo, Ever Vigilant and stick to the plan. All right. Let me just... All right, here's the final version of the deck, at least at level 0. And then we can also look at the side deck down below. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty traditional Mark deck. This looks very similar to the one that I built with Eric that we played to great success in Eric's Blind Dunwich run. Side deck upgrades here. Priority upgrades, I mean, I probably wouldn't put too much in this right away. You probably want to just make your guns better. Use your 45 Thompson, your experience to make your 45 Thompsons better. And then I would start looking like, I'd get stick to the plan too. Like, stick to the plan, you really want to either get first. Like, if you're fine on damage in the first scenario, you'll be fine on damage in your second scenario, right? So your stick to the plan will probably be a good priority upgrade. And then I would look at your 45 Thompsons as well. You could also consider banking your experience to have a better shot at buying your your stick to the plans after this, and even a 45 Thompson. You also could buy a 45 Thompson to start. That'll smooth out some of your economy issues as well. But what I like about this notch sight and this extended stock on scenario 1 is it makes your 32 Colt and your 45 Thompson, your 45 automatic, and even your 45 Thompson, you can just be a little bit more reckless with them and actually get jobs like done, which is, I think, really nice. Definitely weaknesses with this one is going to be your initial card draw, your mulligan, and your economy. But I think we have like 2 emergency caches and 2 stand-togethers. And then we have our glory to help us like draw through things. 1 in the chamber is going to make our guns a little bit better. Active desperation is some backloaded economy, which is also really nice. And then toe-to-toe is also damage, and toe-to-toe is also additional damage for us to work with. And on the home front, the home front is also just like damage from our Kerrigan as well. Okay. What a fun, successful in-depth deck building that has been. Huge thank you to everyone who's watched this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back very soon for another one of these, and we are going to do hand size in the Seeker class, a very fun archetype, which, funnily enough, was the archetype I brought to my second blind run with Eric. So, Guardian Firearms was what I brought to my first run with Eric, and Hand Size Matters was actually my second run. So a little bit funny how that worked out. But thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, a JJ's.